Good afternoon or good morning to everyone, no matter wherever you may be at this time. But I'm Shannon Markey, VP of Sales here at QTRAN, and this will be our 13th webinar or Q School Online, which is hard to believe, but we've done 13 of them. So the one today, we will be focusing on our tunable white products, so our dynamic white products. So with that, our dynamic white is what we're talking about today. So we're going to talk about the product itself, what we have to offer today, and then we're going to talk about the power supplies and take what is sometimes viewed as a very complicated product to specify and understand and try to simplify it and make it a little easier. So with that, I'm going to also remind you that we have a YouTube channel. So all of these presentations are recorded. So you can, if you join the YouTube channel, you will have access to all those, obviously, and any future ones that we may do. So with that, I'm going to bring in my coworker down in the Southeast, Tyler Tremaine from beautiful Atlanta, and he will be co-presenting with me today. Hello, Tyler.
Thank you, and welcome all to our weekly Q School. I'm Tyler Tremaine, the Regional Sales Manager, coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. Before we get started today, we'd like to take a minute to go through the website to show you where you can find all of the information we've discussed today. If we first go, when the website comes up, we're on the homepage. We're going to begin by looking on the product section. There's a drop-down where we'll look in the linear LED strips. Once we get to this page, we'll be able to filter on the left. We will click the dynamic white. And then we'll click the DW24 6.0. And when we get to this page, we've got a brief description of the product, a quick link to the one-page spec sheet or cut sheet. We also have the full ordering guide as well, and we're going to show you that in one moment. As we scroll down, we see some of the technical information, some of the photometric summaries. We have a compatibility chart here with the extrusions. And then finally, all of the downloads down here where you can find IES files and all sorts of quick information. As we scroll back up, we'll take a look at the ordering guide. And as this comes up, so this first page here is the cut sheet with the additional information we'll review. So the part numbers are up at the top. It shows the tape, the environmental options, the color range choices, the wire in locations, the wire out options, either the length of the tape or match if you were going to build a finished fixture. As we scroll down, we'll see again, some of the technical information we saw earlier, the dimensions of the tape, a quick snapshot of the bare wire option, our compatibility chart, again, with the different extrusions. The next section here looks at how to specify a finished fixture with the tape followed by match and then the extrusion. Then we look into the environmental options. So we've got the different environmental options. We're going to talk a little bit about that shortly. And the extrusions that these will fit into. Encapsulation options. Here's our photometric information, looking at each of the chips in a combined score, which we'll talk about as well today. Followed by a little information on the wire connections. And then finally, we get into the extrusions, and this is our multiplier formula for delivered lumens, and we're going to talk about this as well today. And before we get started, let's also do a quick look at where to find the power supplies. So back to the home page, LED power supplies. You can filter by warm, dim, and adjustable white. And as we get here, we have all four options, both indoor and outdoor, for adjustable white and warm, dim. We'll take a look at the indoor adjustable white option. And here, a very similar homepage with a one-page cut sheet and the full ordering guide, some of the technical information available here, and then sort of additional quick downloads as well. So let's get started. Before we do, Shannon, would you like to kick us off?
Sure, absolutely. So with that, I hope everybody got out of that is the website, there's a lot of information, but that filtering device is really a very handy tool to use. If you want to go ahead to the agenda. Along with that, like I said, if you filter down, it really eliminates a lot of the noise of the other products that may not be related to that product. So it's a great way of filtering that down. And then the ordering guide is a nice, it's not something I put in a submittal necessarily because it will probably upset somebody. They get 15 pages, but when you want to put a part together, it walks you from the beginning to the end with every option. So it's a great tool. So today what we're going to try to cover is the dynamic white strips themselves and what differentiates them from our standard product, the characteristics of the strips, the photometrics, different ways of handling different environments out there, and talk about what do we do with that strip, what are the different ways you can order it, what types of housings, be it rigid, flexible, watertight, or in a finished fixture. And then lastly, we'll finish off on what we're really known for, which is the power supply. So we have great power supply solutions. So if you look at the strip itself, it's really one strip, and then the power supply is going to determine which way we drive and what the behavior of that strip is. So I'll toss it back to you, Tyler, to walk through the strips and talk a little bit about that product.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So here we're going to talk a little bit about the characteristics. So we're going to look at the DW24 6.0 LED strip. So this is a dual chip. So you'll have an option of two different color ranges for the dynamic white, either 2000 to 2700K or 2000 to 3000K. The LED has 12 diodes per cut point with 2-inch cut points. The efficacy for the LED strip ranges between 221 and 261 lumens per foot, depending on the color temperature. The LEDs are single bin, 2 steps, and are L70 for 70,000 hours, meaning that after 70,000 hours of use, the LED will be 70% of its original intensity. We also have the measurements of the LED here available. That's part of the information we saw on the cut sheets. Now let's take a look at some of the photometric information. So looking here, this is the 2000 to 2700K LED strip. And so as we look at the 2000 Kelvin chip, it has a CRI of 93 and an R9 value of 63. The 2700K chip has a CRI value of 96 and an R9 value of 96 as well. And the furthest on the right here is the blending of the two chips. And so this has a 2323 Kelvin temperature with a CRI of 95 and an R9 value of 81. Next, we'll take a look at the 2000 to 3000K. So the 2000K chip is the same as we previously looked at. The 3000 Kelvin chip has a CRI of 97 and the R9 value of 95. The blended photometrics has the median color temperature of 2462 Kelvin with a CRI of 96 and the R9 value of 83. Our next slide summarizes some of this information pretty well. And as we see here, we have all the information for the different color temperatures, including the TM30 fidelity and gamut information. I wanted to also point out that the circuit wattage, so each of the two color temperatures are just shy of 3 watts each. And also, we were about to see that 2400 Kelvin is available for some of our damp and encapsulated options, but each of the individual options will have their own delivered lumens and photometric information, which will be available on their cut sheets. So as we look at the environmental options for the dynamic white LED tape, the dry with an IP rating of 20 is available up to 192 inches or 16 feet and offers both of the color ranges, the 2000 to 2700 and the 2000 to 3000K range. The next option is damp. And this is the dry tape that then goes through the same machine that makes our QCAP products and puts an encapsulation layer on top of the diodes and the resistors to make it an IP54 rated product. This is available up to 180 inches or 15 feet. And the color temperature range available for this product is 2400 to 3000 Kelvin. And the reason for this is the polyurethane shifts the color to be slightly cooler. Therefore, the 2000 is not possible. And the next options are the wet. So we also can offer the LED tape encased in a non-yellowing silicone sleeve. And this is an IP67 solution. This option is available up to 192 inches or 16 feet. This choice is available, has both color range options, the 2000 to 2700 and the 2000 to 3000 Kelvin options. Our final option for environmental option is encapsulation. So we have two choices here. We can encapsulate a rigid extrusion or the QCAP products. So to talk about the encapsulation, let's throw it back over to Shannon to show us what that looks like.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler. So here is a rigid extrusion, but is filled with encapsulation instead of having a lens. So I'll put it over here and maybe we can zoom in on it. But instead of having that lens, it is completely filled with that polyurethane material. And the thing I like about that for certain applications is I now have a fixture that looks like a lens fixture, but really it is completely sealed. So that means I have no breakage. I have no bugs getting inside of it. If it's outdoors, I have no dirt. I don't need to, it's very easy to wipe down and clean. It is also very durable and somewhat vandal resistant. We can also do it with a standard end cap, as you see here. If I can get it into the picture, there we go. So you can see that's got a cap on it, and then if I flip that over, you'll see that this end is clear. So if you want to butt those up together, you can still do a continuous row and have that seamless look that we can do with QCAP. But it is a great product. Like I said, we don't do a great job ourselves of telling people about it, but if you don't have a sample, reach out to your regional and they can get you one. With that, back to you, Tyler.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So the last option in our first finished fixture choice is the QCAP products. So the options here are the boxa, worm, and curve fixtures. As Shannon mentioned, these are fully encapsulated. These are the flexible versions. If you're not familiar with these products, we've done a Q School on this earlier, and you can go to our YouTube page and watch that video. The QCAP fixtures are available up to 191 inches, a nominal 16 feet, and these are not field cuttable. So these are custom made fixtures to length and cannot be altered after the fact. Moving on next to look at some of the other finished fixture options, including our extrusions. So here with the dynamic white system, we've got a little matrix here as seen in the cut sheet of all of the extrusions and the environmental options of the tape that'll fit in here. So a quick reference guide, if you will. And we'll move on to the VERS. Also available in all 5 of our VERS finished fixture line, we offer the dynamic white LED tape. As you see here, we show very clearly with each of the VERS fixtures, the lenses, and the color temperature choices, what your delivered lumens will be, and the CRI values. With some of our fixtures, our regular extrusions rather, that information is a little more difficult because we've got so many choices. So our next slide wanted to illustrate how we can show you what a delivered lumen output will look like for the torque extrusion. So as we see here, this is a snip from the guide that we saw. The ordering guide had the full list of the lumen multipliers. And in here, the torque in a black extrusion with a frosted lens has a 0.61 multiplier. And as you see here, that there's quite a big difference between the satin and the black extrusion and the lenses. And I wanted to throw it back over to Shannon to talk about a solution we have for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Tyler. So when you use a black or a bronze extrusion, a lot of times you're using those in millwork or something like that, or it may be a certain application, the open ceiling entertainment place that the ceiling's blacked out. But when you use those extrusions, the challenge is they eat up a lot of the light because it's not a reflective material. So with our white optics option, we've actually had it for a little over a year, but we haven't done a great job of actually putting it out there and letting people know about it. So now we do have cut sheets that talk about it on the website. We do it in 5 different housings currently. We will probably be adding to that as we move forward. But it is not just a paint. It's a white, highly reflective material branded as White Optics. That's the name of the company. So with that, we cover the inside of that with the white optic material. And in a standard silver colored extrusion, you get maybe 10 or 15% more light of it, which sometimes is worth it, sometimes isn't if you're close and you need a little more light punch. But when you go to a black or a bronze and you do the white optics, you can literally get about 50% more of the light than you would get with that without it. So with that, it's a way of punching up on the product category we're talking today. You can only increase the light. But when you look at our standard products, a lot of times you may have an option if you go to white optics that you can go from a 3 watt down to a 1.5 or from a 4 watt down to a 3.0 and get as much or more light output at a lower wattage. And the benefit there is now I can reduce my wire gauge sizes. I can also reduce my power supply sizes and a variety of things that go along with that. So it's a great option. They are on separate cut sheets because we just felt it was too noisy to put all of that on one single cut sheet. So if you look at if you pulled up Torque today, you would see a Torque standard product cut sheet, then you would see Torque WO cut sheet. So it is there and available if you want samples of it. Once again, reach out to your regionals. Be happy to give you samples. When you look at the products side by side, because they are lower wattage, it's tough with at least my untrained eye to visually pick out the brightness of it, but you can see it's a much more smooth light and really fills that extrusion and fills the lens evenly across the fixture. So with that, we will move on to power supplies. So with power supplies, that's really what we're known for as a company. So as I talk about them, we really pride ourselves on having great power supply solutions for not only you as a designer possibly, but also for an end user to manage, also for a contractor to install. So in this product line, we have one tape currently that Tyler talked about. But with that strip, we can make it do different behaviors. So we have 2 different power supplies that look almost like twins, but they're slightly different in how they operate. So when you look at the warm dim, it's a single 0 to 10 volt dimmer. So what that does is when you dim it, the temperature warms up, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So it's really made to simulate incandescent lighting and the behaviors of that light source. When you talk about adjustable white, also known as tunable white, some people call it human-centric lighting. It's one of those things that's pretty, I wouldn't say new, it's been around for a few years, talked about a lot. A lot of times, it's VE'd out of a project, so I don't see it as much as I typically would, but it is out there. The places I see it used most are healthcare, probably hospitality as well, also some in education. So with that, when you need adjustable white, we're using 2 0 to 10 volt controllers to do that. Then you get independent control over both your intensity as well as your color temperature. So as we go to the next slide, you will see there that we offer the power supplies in both the QTM and the QOM housing in the ELED version. So QTM is interior, QOM is outdoor. So on the warm dim power supply, if you look at the chart, one thing we've done with our module, which is on the bottom left, is we've straightened out the 0 to 10 curve. So if you look at a 0 to 10 volt dimming curve, it's very flat on the bottom volt and on the top volt. So it's almost like you get no dimming action over those 2 voltages. So with that, our engineering team developed a module that will give you straight linear dimming from 100% down to dark. So it actually dims to dark. So you don't necessarily have to turn the fixture off. It'll dim all the way down on a straight linear pattern. Now, if you look at the blue line, a lot of people would assume I want the dimming to follow that, or the color temperature, but that is made to mirror incandescent. So as you dim incandescent, that's actually the way the temperature of an incandescent lamp would change. So that's the same pattern that we're following here, once again, trying to simulate that same dimming curve. So they're available not only interior, exterior, they're also available in 100 through 300 watts. So each one of those little dimming modules you see behind there is the power supply, which is the thing on the bottom left. So each one of those will do 98 watts, which is our limited class 2 circuit. So I can put up to 3 of those, up to 300 watts, or just shy of that, actually 288. The universal voltage coming in can be either 120 or 277. It automatically recognizes it, so you don't have a separate part number for that. As I mentioned, dims to dark, and then that operating temperature, so we can go down to negative 40 or operate up to 104 Fahrenheit as well. If you look over to the right, you will see the wiring of the device. So it's pretty simple. The contractor is going to mount this thing, and then he's going to pull in a hot wire and a neutral and a ground through a single conduit entry, attach those, and then he's going to run a purple and a gray, hopefully, out to a 0 to 10 volt dimming. And then he's going to bring out his power to the fixtures. And that's it. That's all you're doing, and you're ready to roll. So it's very simple on his end. So if you imagine from some other manufacturers, a contractor may get 3 different dimming modules to mount and have to buy a box, put all that together. Here it's all pre-assembled at the factory, ready to go. So if we skip to the next slide, now here's adjustable white. So we're doing a different thing here, where we're giving you not only is it changing that color temperature, but we're going to give you the ability to adjust each one individually. So with that, the dimming stays relatively the same on a straight linear curve down to dark. The color temperature, you can shift between either a warmer or a cooler temperature based on how you adjust the slider. So it basically uses 2 0 to 10 volt dimmers to control this. One will do that intensity, the other one will do your CCT. Similar wiring, just an extra purple and gray out there. So it's pretty much, they look exactly the same, but based on the dimming module made by QTran that we put in there, they operate slightly differently. So basically, we'll take a look real quick at one live here that we have in the presentation room. There we go. So here is my module. This one happens to be center mounted, but keep in mind I can have up to 3 of these, and then behind there is my power supply. So 1, 2, or 3. On the cut sheet, we make it appear that you can only do this as a single zone of control up and down. In reality, we do have the ability to make this 3 separate control zones. So if you had a room and I had 3 different switch legs or zones that were all under 98 watt or 96 watts, I could then have this one controlled separately than that, controlled separately than that. If I have a load that's 250 watts and it's all in the same zone, I can have all 3 of those operate together up and down. So it can be wired either way. It's a little more challenging for our guys in the factory when we call it out as singles, but if that's what you need, just let us know. So here I have all my terminal blocks that are pre-wired at the factory, nice and neat. For the contractor, we isolated the primary, which is your high voltage power, from the secondary, which is my low voltage power. And then I have conduit entries on the sides, the bottom, and the other side. So that allows me to come in multiple different ways based on where I may want to mount this. And then being a QT product, we can also mount it in a variety of different positions. So however the contractor, whatever is the easiest way for him to mount that or her in the field, that's the way they can do it. Now the product itself, I will show you here with the verse fixture, and I'm going to show you the fixture, and then I'm going to turn it sideways to make it a little easier to see or not blind you. So here I have it set to our warm dim, and here's the controller. These controllers, this demo case will be available soon to all of our reps. If there's anybody else in the audience that would like one to demonstrate the product, you're more than welcome. But we show both warm dim, which is a single control, and the adjustable white, which is a dual control, in the same box. So here I have it set to warm dim, so that allows me to go to a cooler temperature and then dim it down to a warmer temperature as I dim. So that's just following whatever that incandescent load would be doing, and it dims all the way to dark. So there you can see you got no light coming out of it. If I take my device and I switch it over to the other, now I have the ability to to shift temperature, and then once I lock in the temperature I want, that's really where I like it. I can now control that intensity and dim it to off, or I can dim it all the way back up. So that basically you get 2 separate controls to control those 2 elements individually. So with that, we are going to go to new products. So with new products, I'm going to turn that back over to Tyler. So here we're offering some new products, and I will remind everyone, and I said it once to my regional manager, Doug, but if he's on the phone again, I'll say it again. This is a new product, meaning we're going to release it sometime in July, so don't tell anybody they can have it tomorrow. But if you got an order now that you're working on and you want it by the middle to the end of July, we will be ready to roll with it. with that, I'll throw it back to Tyler to talk about the product, and we'll show it to you at the end of that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Shannon. Yeah, we are delighted to announce our new high efficacy dynamic white product, the DW-HE/24. This will be available in 3, 5, and 8 watts per foot. The 3 watts and the 5 watts per foot will be available in dry, wet, damp, and encapsulated options. The 8 watt per foot will be only available in dry. Both this new LED will also have the dual chip and will be available in 4 different color ranges. So similar to before, we'll have the 2000 to 2700K, 2000 to 3000K, and we'll now be offering 2700 to 4000 Kelvin and 2700 to 5500 Kelvin for our dry and wet options. For the damp and encapsulated, we still have the same 2400 to 3000 Kelvin. And we'll now be offering a 2700 to 4000 Kelvin option and a 2700 to 5500 rather Kelvin option. The new high efficacy tape has 2-inch cut points and 14 diodes per cut point. You may recall the current DW product 6.0 has 12 diodes per cut point. So now the additional 2 diodes in the same space are now much closer together. So we feel that this will have a lot less diode imaging behind many of our finished fixtures. Looking at the chart in the middle here on the right is a quick summary of the efficacy of all of the dynamic white tapes. So at the top is the current DW24 6.0 with a lumen output of 221 to 261 lumens per foot. As you'll see, that's very similar to the new high efficacy 5 watt per foot product. The new 3 watts will have a 142 to 178 lumens per foot, and the new 8 watt per foot dynamic white high efficacy will have 348 to 437 lumens per foot. And why don't we throw it back to Shannon to take a look at this new product in person.
So on the table here, we have the 2 products side by side. And it's a little challenging to tell on here, but once again, if you want samples of this, we will be happy to get samples out to you as we introduce it. But they look visually the same. The diodes are actually the same exact size, but we have 2 extra ones, and we drive them a little harder to get a little more lumen output out of them. And that's how we get the increased lumen output. So with that, very similar, same size board, same width, just a little bit more light out of it, and a little bit few more options with the different wattages. So on the dimming controller here, this is a dimming controller which will show both of those options. So we'll start with the warm dim. So these 3 are our 3 watt, our 5 watt, and our 8 watt. A little challenging to tell on the video, but as I dim those up, you can see that we're doing the warm dim. So at full bright, they're rather cool, and as I dim them down, they're going to get warmer and warmer and warmer. So with that, I'm now going to flip it over to our adjustable. So here I can keep them at that level, and I can adjust that intensity up and down without changing the temperature. Or if I want to bring them up to a different temperature that I'm more comfortable with, I can then shift the adjustability to where I'm comfortable with that. So very easy control for the end user, very simple front end controls to operate that. So with that, we're going to talk about we talked about the cut sheets already, right? So I think we're going to wrap it up. I would like to thank everybody for giving us your time every week. We're going to continue to do these. We're going to continue to introduce some new products. We got a new verse updates coming up, and lots of other things. So a lot of things going on. Other than that, appreciate your time. Any questions, Maura?
We do have a question that was actually answered, but let's repeat it. We were asked by David Wilds if we offered a grazing optic with encapsulation. Now, Gian answered it. What do you think the answer is?
If I know Gian, he probably said, hell yes, we do.
He did. Gian said, we are working on an encapsulated with a grazer. We're probably about a month away. So that is part of the introductions and additions that we are doing within the next month or so. We do have another question.
Okay.
The question is the chasing effect at a low dim level visible? David, you're very engaged today.
It is not visible when I'm physically looking at it here, but when it's on video, it does a lot more dance. Like I said, you really can't see the quality. So if you want samples, we're happy to send samples. We're very liberal with our sample policy, as most of our reps know. If you're a specifier that's on the line, we are happy to provide you samples so you can visually look at the fixtures and test them and, literally see how they operate, both the power supplies as well as the LEDs. There's a lot of things out there that look similar in quality when you look at a cut sheet, but when you look at them in real life, they're not that similar. And we pride ourselves on having the best quality product out there. So if you want a sample, just reach out to your rep, or if you're a rep, reach out to your regional, and we're happy to provide you with samples if you're working on a specific project. We also have our lovely sample cases that are sitting here that are available for a variety of different products that we don't charge for. We send them out. So if you can use it, please ask and we'll give it to you. Seeing is believing. With that, I'm getting that there are no more other questions. So once again, I appreciate everybody attending. All of us here at QTran do. And we appreciate your business. And please, we are fully operational here and we are building stuff and shipping it every day. So if you need something, let us know. And with that, hope to see you all next week. And please join the YouTube channel if you could. Thank you.